Why, hello there, old sports. And today I'm mad, I'm angry, and that's because in Hollow Knight there's a charm called Fury of the Fallen, which allows you to do a lot more damage when you're at 1 HP. The first challenge video I ever made on this channel was one where I gave myself Fury of the Fallen and set my HP to 1, meaning that I'd always have the extra damage effect added, but any mistake would mean death. But unfortunately that video sucked, so I unlisted it. But today, I'm here to right my wrongs, and I'm not only just going to do the normal Hollow Knight ending like last time, I'm going to go for the Dream No More ending where you fight the Radiance. Will the extra damage offered by Fury of the Fallen be enough to get past the issue of only having 1 HP? Stick around to find out. Now, unfortunately for you all at home, the problem with this challenge is that it isn't really that challenging at the beginning. Now the thing is, Hollow Knight always rounds to the nearest full number upwards, so if it's 2.5 it will round up to 3, if it's 2.2 it will round up to 3 as well. When Fury of the Fallen is active, it multiplies your damage by 1.75, and when we take our starting damage of 5 damage and multiply that by 1.75, we get 8.75, which is then rounded up to 9. And the thing is, if you know about how the damage numbers work in this game, you might know that the first nail upgrade you get increases your damage from 5 to 9. So, technically, we're just starting out with an upgraded nail, if that makes any sense. And considering the fact that Green Path and the Crossroads are both balanced around you having a 5 damage nail, this means the beginning of the challenge is pretty easy because we can kind of just annihilate anything in our path. And then our second thing that isn't as important as the first thing is that I've tried to no-hit this game before. And by that I mean I've tried to do the whole game without getting hit in one sitting. And even if I've never been able to get to the end of the run before, every good run I've had has always gotten past the beginning. So I have a lot of practice here, which means that if I can just block in, I won't be taking much damage, at least in the beginning areas up to Mantis Claw. And then the actual second point is that I can use Lifeblood, and that does not deactivate Fury of the Fallen, which means it is allowed, which means technically we're allowed to have more than 1 HP, but most of the time Lifeblood is kind of out of the way, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. The blue juice is not worth the squeeze. Originally for this section, I was going to talk about how quickly some bosses go down with Fury of the Fallen, including ones like Gruzmother, but she's already dead, so I don't know what to do. Moving on to False Knight, I wouldn't say he's more difficult, I would just say he was less easy, if that makes sense. And the funny thing is that if you get good luck with the rocks that spawn when he does his tantrum attack, you can knock him down before he even finishes said tantrum attack. Now as the fight goes on, if you don't get good luck with the rocks, you're gonna have to deal with his basic attacks, and you just need to keep an eye on the rocks falling from the ceiling, because hypothetically those could fall on you and screw you up. But as long as you just stay calm and keep an eye on the rocks from above you, or at least the top half of the screen, you'll be fine. Hey friend, my whole body is pulsating red. Do you think you have anything to help with that? Oh, I have just the solution. This little thing will get you feeling prim and proper. Oh cool, what does it do? Well, considering it's a fireball, I would assume it would cauterize your wounds. It'll do what now? After clearing out the Shaman's Mound with little to no difficulties, I move on into Green Path, and while I explore, I would like to talk to you a bit about how money is handled in this challenge. Because the thing is, our geo amount can be very unstable, and by that I mean that obviously whenever you die, you will leave a shade holding all of your money. But the thing is, since we only have 1 HP, if we make one mistake, and then make a second mistake before we can recover our shade, that shade is gone forever, and the money it's holding. So we really want to spend our money as fast as possible to avoid it getting lost to the cold maw of oblivion. For example, after getting the fireball spell, I went and bought a bunch of charms, because even if I couldn't use half of them, they at least count towards the amount of charms Salubra needs before you can buy more charm notches from her. Now really our only safe way of holding on to money is via the relics in our inventory. So when we pick up relics, we want to hold on to them for as long as we can, and then we don't want to sell them all at once we actually reach the City of Tears and Lem, because if we hold on to some of them, in the case we die and lose all of our geo, we won't have just sold all of our relics, and we'll be able to keep some of that geo we might have lost, if that makes any sense. Because even if things seem like they're going well at the beginning of this run, they quickly deteriorate, so I'm very glad I made a plan at the beginning of the run before I even died once. Hell, even though I did have a plan, I probably ended up losing at least 10,000 geo throughout this whole run, and I'm sure that clues you into how things go later, but we'll get to that in due time. There's a weird balance you need to strike when it comes to acquiring money, because if you grind too much, there's a chance you could lose all of it in a couple moments. But if you don't grind, you're not going to have money that you need for things later, so it's risk and reward. How long are you going to go without spending your money? Now, like I said earlier, thankfully lots of the enemies in these first few areas are pretty easy to deal with, even if they don't drop much geo, but some is better than nothing in this case, at least. So, we're gonna need a lot of geo later, so might as well just start building up our stash now. Next up, we need to fight Hornet, who guards the dash ability. I beat her in less than 30 seconds. Once I acquire the dash, I make sure to pick up some more geo on my way to the Fog Canyon, and then enter the Queen Station, where I unlock the tramway, and then return to the crossroads so I can buy some stuff from Salubra. I make sure to buy an extra charm notch as well as Shaman Stone, because even though eventually our nail damage will be more than the spell damage, it isn't right now, so might as well get any damage boost we can. Also, spells are a good ranged option, so they'll never be obsolete on that front. And it was a good thing I spent my geo when I did, because soon afterwards, when I started exploring the fungal wastes, I accidentally hit one of the exploding spores, and ended up taking my first death. The first of many. After successfully recovering my shade, I clear out the Shroomel Ogre arena, claiming another charm notch in the process, and then from there, the rest of the fungal wastes wasn't that bad, except for a death I had right before entering the Mantis village, but thankfully I had just rested on the bench below that little area, so it didn't take me very long to get back to where I was and get my shade back. After that, though, I was able to make it through the Mantis village, no problem, and grab the Mantis Claw. And then like 15 seconds afterwards, I died to a parkour section because I'm an idiot. However, after grabbing my shade, I decided that I should just not let the parkour stress me out so much, and suddenly I was able to get through the rest of the Mantis Village parkour with no difficulties or bumps in the road. However, next up was the Mantis Lords, and if you remember how I said I was able to consistently get to the fungal wastes every run when I was trying to not get hit at all while playing the game, this is where most of those runs ended up dying. Now thankfully for this run I was able to use the little lifeblood cocoon above the Mantis Lords arena to give myself some extra protection, but the Mantis Lords can still be pretty brutal, especially considering that I'm overcharmed here, so I technically can only take one hit before I die. And the thing about the Mantis Lords that makes them difficult is mostly the second phase, because sometimes if you're paying too much attention to where one of them is, the other can sneak up on you. And then also there's a weird glitch where sometimes the Mantis Lords will spawn right on top of you. Maybe it isn't a glitch, maybe I'm just bad at the game, but I'm not sure. It feels like something that isn't supposed to be able to happen. So you just need to try to stay in the center of the arena at all times. However, since I actually had a reasonable amount of damage for this fight, I was able to take down the Mantis Lords on my first try, and earn the respect of the Mantis tribe. After picking up the rewards for the Mantis Lord fight, including a Hallownest Seal, 600 Geo roughly, and Mark of Pride, I take the door entrance into Deep Nest. And while to most, Deep Nest sounds like the worst place to go if you're trying not to get hit, to me, I've played this game way too much and I've basically memorized half of the layout of this place. So, basically all of the important rooms should be fine, I shouldn't die ever, that would be silly if I ever did that. After reaching the hot spring, I quickly make my way up towards the ruined tramway area. And obviously what we want here is the tram pass. But to actually get to said tram pass, we're going to need to deal with a bunch of carver mothers, which are those flying enemies that spit out the dirt carvers. And those are really annoying. Though, thankfully, a single double hit fireball with Shaman Stone is able to take them out. It's mostly the little babies that you have to deal with that are annoying. But minus a few close calls, I had no problems getting the tram pass. However, after grabbing it, I did die once in the arena full of the corpse crawler mimic enemies. But eventually I was able to defeat the arena, and then I completely ignored Zote because the only reason I came here was to grab the King's Idol. And after that, I had no problems returning to the hot spring area. But actually getting to the tram from the hot spring area proved to be a bit of a problem. For some reason, I decided that I really wanted the Soul Vessel fragment hidden in the little obstacle course that's above this little area in between the hot spring and the tram, and I ended up dying on my way to the room, and then I also died in the room itself. And then, just to pour salt in the wound, on the way back I lost my shade and the 2,000 geo it was carrying. Wonderful. Unfortunately, at this point, since I had nothing left to lose, I just decided that I would just brute force the Soul Vessel fragment, and then I got it on my first try after that, because this game hates me. And coincidentally enough, right after getting the Vessel fragment, I ended up dying again, but this time I didn't even bother going after my shade because it was carrying nothing of use to me. Lifelong pass in hand, I was able to reach the tram and then get to the Ancient Basin. Upon actually reaching the Ancient Basin, or that little area in between the Ancient Basin and the City of Tears, my first objective was to get the pale ore in the little deposit that was hidden behind those two mini Moloch enemies, but that actually kind of proved to be somewhat difficult, because the thing about bosses in this challenge is that usually there's only one of them, and if there's multiple bosses at once, they're usually balanced around being in the same arena and working alongside each other. But when you just put a bunch of enemies in one room, it can be kind of difficult to do that all perfectly. Because having multiple AIs that aren't meant to be working together can cause quite a lot of problems. But after 3 embarrassing deaths, I managed to grab the pale ore, and then change my objective to actually getting into the City of Tears. Now somehow, I managed to die 8 times while trying to climb the elevator shaft into the city, and while in any real-life example that would actually be pretty impressive, in this game, it is not at all. One thing I was waiting to bring up until it was relevant was the fact that I can get very impatient when playing video games, and in that way where it's like, oh, I've been at this for like an hour, just rush at it, don't be careful, and that ends up making me make mistakes. And in this example, I was getting frustrated that I was struggling to climb up the elevator shaft after like 4 deaths, so I lost any sense of being careful or being patient, and I just kept trying to rush at it, and I kept failing. But eventually I managed to, by a stroke of luck, actually get through. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to stay calm and collected during this. Because if you let your emotions get the best of you for a moment, the boss can capitalize on that, or the enemies can swarm you. Just any number of terrible things can happen. But like I said, eventually I do manage to get into the city. After finally reaching the safety of a bench, I throw myself right back into danger by doing the little arena where you can earn a soul vessel fragment. And in this case, since I already have 2, this would give me another soul bubble. Unfortunately, I ended up dying. However, on my second try, I finally decided to actually be good at the video game and beat the arena. But to be honest, while the extra soul bubble is undeniably helpful, my main reason for doing this was to gather a large amount of geo, because since I lost all of the geo I got earlier while I was in Deep Nest, I'm going to need lots more if I want to upgrade my nail. And especially if I want to upgrade my nail a second time with that pale ore that took me 3 deaths to earn. When I finally reached the nailsmith's hut, I had enough geo to upgrade my nail once, but I was about 100 or 200 short of upgrading it a second time, so I decided to do some grinding outside of the nailsmith's hut, and then ended up dying because I missed a pogo on a benchfly. But this might have been a blessing in disguise, because on my way back to my shade, I earned enough geo to not have to grind anymore, and then I was able to upgrade my nail a second time. Now to put into perspective how good this is for us, with our starting nail, we do 9 damage when Fury of the Fallen is active. With the second upgraded nail, we now do 23. Anyway, since I just spent all my money, I sell a few relics to Lem so I have enough money to unlock the Stag Station and the elevator up to the crossroads. After grabbing the Soul Vessel fragment in the crossroads, I return to the City of Tears and then ascend up the same path I went to get the Soul Vessel fragment that I got to complete my first bubble, but this time I go to the west, leading to an elevator that leads me up to the resting grounds. Obviously from there I interact with the Dreamer Memorial and then get sent to the Dream World, where then Seer rescues me and allows me to claim the Dream Nail as my own. Since I need someone to test my upgraded nail against, I decide to go pick on Zero because he is a fraud. I then go beat him easily, which I was expecting to happen, but I'm glad that it happened regardless because that means my nail is actually effective. Upgraded nail and dream nail in hand, I go to fight the failed champion. I die instantly. So I try again, and die a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, but fifth time's the charm. Just like the false knight before him, the failed champion's worst part of the battle is the first phase before you knock him down once, because every time you knock him down, in the time it takes him to do his tantrum attack and then get up and jump to do said tantrum attack in the first place, you can get 5 or 6 free hits off on him anyway and take a huge chunk out of his health bar. Add the falling barrels onto that, and sometimes you can defeat the second and third phases before he can barely get a few attacks off. So all you really need to do is just survive that first phase, and the other two should be a breeze. Keeping the essence gathering train going, I go back to the King's Pass and then go up the secret entrance into the Howling Cliffs. From there, I easily take out Gorb, before also getting Boulder Shell and a few other stuff in the Howling Cliffs, but that isn't very important. What is important, however, is that I summon the Grim Troop, and it's not for the reason you think. Then I die in the Fog Canyon because I'm an idiot, but then again, you already know that, so I don't know why I'm saying it again. At this point in the run, I hadn't purchased any of the fragile charms from Leg Eater, because I figured I wouldn't really be able to use them, because obviously they break when you die, and I'd be dying a lot, so that would be a lot of money I would have to spend on repairing them. And really only 2 of them are useful, because Fragile Heart would be against using Fragile Heart would be against the rules of this challenge. However, Fragile Strength stacks multiplicatively with the bonus you get from Fury of the Fallen, so it gives you like something absurd, like an 170% damage increase. It not only doubles our damage, but it almost triples it. So around the time I reached the Howling Cliffs, I came to a realization. If I'm gonna end up spending so much money trying to repair them constantly, why don't I just put that money towards making one of the charms unbreakable? So after roughly 3 hours of grinding, I returned to Dirtmouth to talk to Divine, and thankfully I was smart enough to take off Fragile Greed because I didn't want her to accidentally eat the Fragile Greed charm instead of Fragile Strength, because then I would have to pay to get Fragile Greed out, and then I'd have to feed her Fragile Strength, and then have to pay to get that out, so that'd be a whole bunch more Geo that I'd have to grind. But the problem is that I'm kind of stupid and forgot that 12,000 Geo is the money required to turn Fragile Heart into Unbreakable Heart, not Fragile Strength into Unbreakable Strength. That's 15,000 Geo. God damn it. Now, I was kind of tired of grinding at this point for very obvious reasons, so I just went to Lem and sold off some of my relics so I wouldn't have to grind anymore and I could just upgrade the charm. So after that slight detour, I returned to Divine and got my charm back, meaning now we do 36 damage a nail strike. For comparison, we were before putting the charm on, we were doing 23 damage, and the base pure nail damage, which is the final nail upgrade, does 21 damage. We can still upgrade the nail 2 more times. Now, unfortunately, solving this problem of our damage makes another problem come into existence, that being that I am out of money. I'd rather wait a bit until grinding again, but the problem is there's only 2 ways into the Crystal Peaks to get the Crystal Dash, and one of them is the Lumafly Lantern, which costs 1800 Geo, so that's off the table, and the only other way in there is via the Desolate Dive ability, which means we have to go kill Soulmaster now. Thankfully, our ability to dispatch enemies quicker than the doors can open is coming in clutch for the first half of the Soul Sanctum, but unfortunately the Spell Twisters still have a range advantage on us. But thankfully, after getting my Shade back, the rest of the Sanctum is no issue. Unfortunately, the Soulmaster decides to do a double teleport slam right in the corner of the arena where I can't escape before he kills me, so that's terrible. But on the run back, I managed to defeat Soulmaster, and then also defeat Soul Tyrant on my first try, which I was not expecting. But then again, the fact that we do so much damage per hit probably makes up for the fact that we can't hit him very often. Anyways, with the new spell and 300 essence in hand, we're able to leave the Soul Sanctum, but thankfully our journey here has netted us a lot of money, which means now we can finally buy the lantern. Now, as I'm sure you've picked up on, we're a glass cannon in this run. And it's kinda hard for the enemies to hit us because we can kill them faster than they can react. How to the ever, we cannot kill parkour. It will never die, which means that it can kill us quite easily because we cannot make a mistake, we have to do things perfectly. Now originally I was going to have a little spiel here about how I could just get good at the parkour and learn to do it consistently, And then this happened. Pray tell, what thy fuck? Anyways, after a much more cautious climb up into that area I died in, I go kill the Crystal Guardian in less than 15 seconds. From there, after sitting at the bench, I decide that, you know what's a good idea? Going and getting the Pale Ore at Hallownest's crown, because if I give all my essence to Seer, she'll give me Pale Ore as well, which means I can upgrade my nail again. So, all you need to do is climb up to Hallownest's crown without getting hit, without wings or Crystal Dash. I'm sure you could guess how it went. Jokes aside, I did eventually get the ore, and then from there, I easily got the Crystal Heart, died a few times to the Crushers, and then made my way back to Dirtmouth. After dying twice like an idiot, I make a quick detour to get my rewards from Seer, and then go sell some relics for Lem so I can upgrade my nail. With 2,000 Geo and 2 Pale Ore, we can upgrade our nail to the penultimate upgrade, the Coiled Nail, which will be our last weapon upgrade of this challenge run, because I don't feel like doing all this stuff to get the other 3 Pale Ore to upgrade it one more time. But trust me, that will be more than enough, considering we do 46 damage a swing now. With our new weapon in hand, I go down into the Ancient Basin with the intentions of fighting the Broken Vessel, but first we have to reach it. That might be a problem. Honestly, I had no idea how I was going to solve this problem, so I racked my brain coming up with any way I could get past those spitter enemies, and I had one idea. How did that work? Anyways, moving on. After switching my charms back to something more suited for combat, I take on the Broken Vessel, and the problem with this boss is that it's really squishy, so the second it does its headbang attack, we basically have the perfect opening to rip the poor fucker to shreds. After grabbing the wings, I do the rematch with Lost Kin, which is slightly easier, and it really isn't that hard, I'm gonna be honest. Like, yeah, it has a lot more health, it has over double the health, but that just means we have to hit it 27 times instead of 12. I'm not joking, by the way. You need to hit Broken Vessel 12 times to kill it with our setup, Lost Kin 27. After unlocking the hidden stag station next to the palace, I decide now is as good a time as ever to go kill Hera, and since I'm in the Ancient Basin, I can use the tram as a shortcut into Deep Nest. During my second expedition into Deep Nest, I died 4 times, and all of them were because I was being stupid and impatient. There was one where I even just dashed straight into a room into an enemy like 5 seconds after I respawned. It was kinda pathetic. However, eventually I do reach Hera and somehow I get through the Beast's Den perfectly. After unlocking the Stag Station, I decide to actually go back into Deep Nest so I could enter the Queen's Gardens via the entrance there. Because the Queen's Gardens gives me access to Marmu, which gives me more essence, and then also it will just be helpful to have that area unlocked when I need to come back here for the Traitor Lord kill, and the white fragment that he guards. And to make a long and annoying story short, I died 11 times trying to reach the Stag Station for the Queen's Gardens, and it was terrible, mostly because of those jumping spider enemies. I hate them, they're awful, please never come near me again. But as I said, I do eventually reach the station, and then I kill Marmu for her essence before moving on. Back in the Crystal Peaks, I made sure to pick up the Shopkeeper's Key, which allows Sly to sell me more things, including the Elegant Key, which we will use later. After that, I did the acid skip into the Fog Canyon so I could reach the teacher's archives, but on the way, I died 7 times because I was trying to get the charm notch in the little side area with all the bubbles. However, thankfully the power of Desolate Dive is enough to just iframe through the explosions, so it wasn't too hard once I actually got into the main section of the area, but it was annoying to actually get there because I can't iframe acid. But after actually getting the charm notch, getting into the teacher's archives was really easy, and getting to Umu was even easier. Now, while I did end up killing Umu in 3 bubble cycles, I probably could have done it faster if I was focusing more on nail damage, but I kept trying to go for double hit fireballs, and most of them didn't double hit, they only did a single hit. So I probably could have done more nail damage than spell damage, and I probably should have tried to go for more nail hits, but sometimes I was just trying to be way too cautious, because I feel like Umu is one of those bosses that can either you do it on your first try, or your 30th. Anyways, after Umu falls, Monomon follows soon after. And since I was in the Fog Canyon, which is close to the fungal wastes, I made my way over to Elder Hu's grave to kill him for his essence, because we're getting pretty close to upgrading the Dream Nail, and obviously we need to do that if we want to get the Void Heart. Elegant key in hand, I returned to the City of Tears and made my way towards the Soul Sanctum. I used the Elegant Key to enter the western part of the Soul Sanctum where the Soul Warrior was guarding the Shade Soul upgrade, and I'm saying the word soul too many times. Thankfully, this boss is pretty squishy at the best of times, let alone when we have 2 damage multiplying charms on, so he didn't last very long in the ring with us. Now, while the Shade Soul with the Shaman Stone still does less damage than a single nail strike, it can double hit for 80 damage, and then it also just has range, and it pierces through enemies, so I guess my point here is just that, like, having a ranged piercing option is always helpful because it's safer. And while I was in the city, I figured I might as well finish off the last dreamer, Lurian, and made my way to the Watcher's Spire. And for some reason I decided I felt like, oh yeah, I should break the chandelier, because one less Watcher Knight will make the fight more safe. And then I actually beat the fight in like less than a minute, so that was unfortunate for the Watcher Knights. They didn't stand a chance. Because technically their biggest strength is that they can go invulnerable from nail strikes when they roll up into their ball form, but again, the 40 damage Shade Soul we have doesn't really care about damage resistance, it hurts them regardless. After grabbing my rewards, I went up to the highest point of the Watcher's Spire and finished off the last dreamer. Again, since I was in the City of Tears, I figured now that I've killed all the Dreamers, it would be a good time to go fight Hornet in the Kingdom's Edge. I also realized that since I have Desolate Dive, I can actually go get Quick Slash, and even if Shaman Stone is buffing up our spells, I feel like replacing it with Quick Slash would be better considering our nail is our main form of damage. And as I'm sure we all know, Quick Slash is busted. Now, it might have actually taken me 6 deaths to actually reach Quick Slash, but I did reach it nonetheless, so let's move on. Now some of you might be expecting me to say that I killed Hornet in less than 30 seconds like I did the first time around. And you would be right, I just happened to die my first attempt. After talking to Hornet though, I get the King's Brand from the cast-off shell and then make a quick trip down into the abyss to grab the Shade Cloak before skedaddling back up to the surface via Dreamgate. From there, I went back to Green Path and defeated No Eyes for the Essence, before finally using my Shade Cloak in the Queen's Gardens to go fight Traitor Lord. Now the funny thing about Traitor Lord is that once he hits you once, he kind of snowballs because it's hard to regain any health, so unless you're comfortable fighting him at low health, the fight can be kind of unfortunate. But the problem here is that I can't get hit at all anyway, so I kind of just melt him in 30 seconds and move on. But regardless, after killing Traitor Lord, I get the first half of the King Soul from the White Lady, before killing Markoth in Kingdom's Edge to get the last amount of essence I need, and then finally awakening the Dream Nail. Awakening is not a word, I don't know what I'm talking about. I upgrade the Dream Nail to the Awoken Dream Nail, that's what I was trying to get at. With the first half of the King Soul in hand, Awoken Dream Nail in the other, I return to the palace grounds, and Dream Nail the corpse of the King's Mold to enter the memory of the White Palace. And this is where things all go terribly. Now, a little behind the scenes into my video making process, I tend to write the script in chunks as I edit the video. So, by the time I'm writing the script for this section, I've already edited all of the video before this. And I want to explain that, because at this point, I was getting kind of tired of hearing the squeaking sound effect that I play whenever I die. And I'm very confident that I find that gag a lot funnier than you guys do. So I'm going to make an executive decision and just explain how many times I died without playing the sound effect, and trust that you'll just look at the death counter if you want to know how things are going. Now the funny thing about the White Palace is usually it's very forgiving, because if you take damage, it teleports you back to a safe place that isn't that far away from where you got hit. But if you run out of health, usually the bench placement is not very generous. But the problem is, every time we get hit, we're sent back to a bench. There is only 3 benches in this whole palace. Oh no. if I counted my deaths correctly, which I probably didn't, but let's just assume I was close-ish, I died 72 times up to this point. In the White Palace alone, I died 49 times. Originally, I was also going to do the Path of Pain, but then I decided that, hey, this probably isn't going to be worth the 5-second bit where I just say, oh yeah, also I did the Path of Pain, and I was definitely right, and I'm glad I did not do that. Also, just to add some context, I had been recording for like 4 hours at this point, and I was getting kind of tired, and my hands were starting to just, feel tired from pressing buttons for 4 hours. So I started making mistakes, and lots of mistakes I probably shouldn't have, like missing a jump here, mistiming a dash there, and it just adds up over time, and then you get more frustrated because you're not getting this done, so you try to go faster and you're being less careful, so you die more, and it's just a whole downward spiral, and it's kind of terrible. Just in case the 49 number doesn't put things into perspective for you, it took me over an hour until I reached the Pale King's corpse in the White Palace. That's how long it took me to actually just get good and do the parkour correctly. Now, funnily enough, if I actually did the Path of Pain, I feel like it probably would have taken me a shorter amount of time than some of the other sections in this, and that's because I've practiced the Path of Pain a lot, because it's very difficult, so I understand it now. But the thing is, the normal White Palace is just easy enough to where I didn't really have to practice it before this point, but just hard enough to where if I tried to do it perfectly, it took a very long time. And, going off script for a moment, I, don't really know how to explain why the White Palace is so annoying in this video, because I feel like just saying, hey, I died 49 times gets the point across somewhat, but I feel like actually showing every 49 of those deaths would be very tedious and would just drag the video down a bit. But I'm not really sure how else to explain how awful this was to do, and how just numbing. I guess the best way I can say it is that if you have a normal, if you have like a normal Hollow Knight file or something, just try dying 49 times, or set your, well, I guess you can't do that if you don't have modding tools. Just go into like an area with like one of those bottomless cliffs in a dream that takes you out of the dream, and then just throw yourself off that cliff 49 times and see how long it takes you to do it if you don't understand how terrible this is. And I promise by the end of it, or even just like halfway through it, you'll get the point and you'll stop doing it because you'll probably be making better decisions than me. Or hell, you probably won't even do it in the first place because again, you're probably making smarter decisions than I am. But thankfully, before I managed to die a 50th time, I finally reached the throne room and the Pale King himself. I get the second half of the King Soul, finally completing the charm, and kicking me out of the dream. From there, I make a quick pit stop back in the abyss, explore the birthplace, and relive some past trauma. With that, I have finally earned the Void Heart, and can now take on the Radiance. Hey, I'm sorry, originally I was gonna have a cool montage here where I fought the Hollow Knight and it was gonna be super cool and it was gonna be like synced to the music, but I ended up defeating it way too quickly and then it just messed up the timing on everything. It was just unfortunate, so yeah, sorry about that. Turns out when you're doing 50 damage a swing and you have quick slash, the boss goes down really quickly. Who would've thunk? Also, right before entering the Black Egg Temple, I realized that I could have been using Lifeblood Heart this whole time, because when I have Lifeblood Heart on, it gives me 2 Lifeblood masks, and that doesn't deactivate Fury of the Fallen. That would have been helpful to have in the White Palace, I guess. Well, there's not really anything I can do about it now, because I only realized it after the fact. Anyways, like I said, the Hollow Knight went down really quickly. Hornet comes in for the save, telling us to get good, as if I haven't been doing that the whole run, and then I fight the Radiance. So across all of the phases in this fight, the Radiance has 1700 HP, meaning that with our current damage we need to hit her about 37 times. to send her into that final phase where she ascends up into the sky and you have to chase her up while she's shooting lasers down at you. Because once you actually reach the top, you only need to hit her once before the fight ends. Now, her tankiest phase is the platform phase, and she has 700 HP, but unfortunately for her, she spawns at just the right height for us to up-slash her, and turns out that that's the quickest we can attack. Add quick slash onto that, and her health gets melted in like 15 seconds. So, that's unfortunate for her, I guess. And then just to pour salt in the wound, when you enter the dream world, your masks get refreshed, including the lifeblood masks you would have from any charms. So, I mean, we didn't get hit regardless, but the Radiants literally had no chance. This was just a bloodbath. Funnily enough, the platform phase is supposed to be the hardest part of the fight, while the grounded portion at the beginning of the fight is supposed to be the quote-unquote easier part of said fight. But for us, it was the opposite, because it just took us longer to chew through her health when she is up in the air, so it's harder to abuse Quick Slash. But once she's at our level, again, bloodbath. With all that being said, the challenge is complete. And this was kind of a roller coaster in terms of it actually being challenging or not, because it started off a bit challenging, especially in the fungal wastes. Then I got Unbreakable Strength, and then Quick Slash, and the game got substantially easier. And then I ran into the White Palace, and that was a whole mess. So, I think this challenge was interesting, but I guess at this point I've done all I can, and now it's time to give this video to you guys. I don't know when this video is going up, because I just put a poll up saying, hey, should I release this video in January, or at the end of December? And so far it looks like mostly people are wanting to do it in January, so I guess this video will go up in January, I don't know. Regardless of when this video goes up, I would like to thank you for watching and giving me some of your time today, whenever you are watching this. It means the world to me that you would just sit down, or I don't know if maybe you're on a walk or something. It means the world to me that you would spend some of your precious time watching something I made. Truly. And of course, I would like to thank my YouTube members who are on the screen right now. Thank you for your continued financial support. It means the world to me. Even more, I guess. In all seriousness, again, regardless of if you support me financially or not, I still appreciate your time and value that you gave me a chance. That means the world to me, like I said. If you liked the video, please consider commenting, liking, subscribing, hyping, all that good stuff, as it shows the algorithm that my videos are actually decent. And if this video gets 10,000 views, I'll make another Hollow Knight challenge, where I beat the entire game in one sitting, without respawning, and without getting hit. So, I hope that I don't have to do that, but I guess that's up to you guys at this point. Regardless, see you on the flip side, and good night.